Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of The Check-In. So, we just got out of a movie tonight, like an hour ago. You want to tell them what we just saw? That's Chewie saying that we saw Solo, a Star Wars story. And based on his reaction, I will just answer and say that, no, it's not a good movie. For many reasons. I'll let you elaborate, but personally, it's just too bland and boring.
Yeah, okay. In all seriousness, I was very negative about this film before going in, which you could say impairs my judgment a little bit about how much I hated it. But I will counter that by saying I still may have disliked it, but could admit it wasn't a terrible film. This is a terrible film. From the moment it starts, you can just see that there's no drive to the film. But the biggest thing I'll say from the start is that this film feels like it has 3 different plots. Like Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 are 3 completely different films. And not only that, Solo himself, in those 3 sections, doesn't change at all. He doesn't go through an arc. And if you've listened to other reviews, you'll have heard them say this. They are absolutely right. There's no actual change. It all stems from the fact that it's lazy, it's really shoddily put together, and the character of Solo doesn't come out as well as you would want it to. And I think, a big part of that is that Han Solo is supposed to be, he's very smug. He doesn't take any crap from people. He's very fond of his ship. There's certain elements to Han that I think, didn't lend itself to this film. And I'll just start by giving examples, because I'm starting to lose my train of thought, because I'm trying to get this out of my brain. That's how much it hurt. But there is a scene at the beginning where Han is just, they're in some kind of, Oliver Twist type Dickensian universe where they're all poor and things are going really bad, but you never really get a lot of depth to anything that's happening because there's so much buildup. And all that buildup with him and Kira, who, they live together and they plan to run away together. But there's no big reason why he wants to do it. What is going to happen if he doesn't do it? What was he currently doing? I still don't even remember. There's a bunch of text at the beginning that tries to do some Phantom Menace mumbo-jumbo that doesn't actually wind up working. And in addition, the journey that he goes on, the motivation and the goals are not well defined. And I think a key example of this is 2 things. Number 1, the fan service of let's see how this happened. The fact that Han doesn't have a last name, so he goes to enlist in the Imperial Navy because it's something that he's gonna, he's gonna get away from his crappy life and stuff like that. He doesn't have a last name, and the Imperial officer, the biggest rebel, the rebel who wouldn't even join the rebels, is given his name by an Imperial officer. That is just an immediate turnoff to the idea that you could have literally have presented it in any sort of way, and it would have been fine. But even worse than that was that then all of a sudden he's involved in this war, and the plot pretty much when he meets Woody Harrelson in the war, but except he's not in the war because he's a soldier for the Empire. He's fighting with them, but he got kicked into the Imperial Academy. So is he or is he not? There's so much confusion that the plot has so early on, and it is topped off by the fact that oh man, I totally forget. What does he do?
The crew gets killed off?
No, not even that though. Before he even does the job, I remember. The plot is pretty much... No. The plot is pretty much, gotta get back home to my girl.
Oh, yeah.
And if you pretty much combine that with Rey's overarching Act 2 goal of, there's people waiting for me, I have to make sure I get back to Jakku, then that's pretty much what you have for Han's entire Act 2 goal. Except, whoops, it's not, because 40 minutes into the film, keep in mind the first 15 minutes Kira's on screen, he just finds Kira again in a completely different situation where he's grown as a person and she's grown as a person, but it's like, have you guys? I'm so unclear as to what is going on with everything because you have failed to set up a great Act 1. You know what they do? Act 3, what they quote-unquote reveal in Act 3 about, oh, she's working for this person and she actually doesn't do this and Han was actually doing this when he was really thinking this. Those big twists or reveals, that's the exposition that should have been Act 1. You can't, like, I hate it when films make things so unclear, and then when you eventually get to the ending, they finally explain it. It's like, no. The ending should be a twist, not explaining what all the confusion was at the beginning of the film. And even worse than that is every single time they just shift to a new thing, you get little bits of, like, what could possibly be Han Solo, and then it's just completely done away with. Like, immediately. Like, he'll have some sort of smug look on his face and a little bit of charisma, and then it'll be totally undermined by bad dialogue that if you ever imagined Harrison Ford saying, you would cringe because it's just, Harrison Ford's too cool to say such generic lines. And even further, there's a bunch of problems, like, littered throughout, like, how they introduce certain characters, how they do certain fan services. How he meets Chewie's not that bad. I won't go that into it because it really didn't affect me that much, but I actually go into one of my other favorite bits, which was when Han, there's a scene with all of them where they're just standing in front of the Falcon and having a standoff and shooting. And that's the stuff that you kind of want to see, but with more depth to it. Like, every time I started to enjoy myself, I realized that there was so little depth. Chewbacca he's looking for his family. That's like a whole big thing that Han and Chewie can connect with because he's trying to get back to someone he loves. But the second that Kira comes back into play, there's a couple of Wookiees that they liberate, but Chewie's family never comes back up again. And Chewie's arguably supposed to be the second most important character. All the unnecessary characters, plus Kira and Woody Harrelson, I would argue, had more bearing on Han's story than Chewie did. Which, that's not right. You shouldn't have to do that. And moving on from that is, I think, the biggest fan service thing, which was Han doing the Kessel Run. And number one, that is something that he doesn't even brag about himself. He brags about the ship. And that's something that this film does not get, is that his confidence in himself doesn't need to be said out loud. He shows it. The ship doesn't look like much. He has to talk the ship up. And yes, he does fly the Kessel Run, but what they did was they pretty much just chunked together a medley of Hope, Empire, and Jedi's music of all the Han Solo moments and just put it in there, immediately making me, like, I was not hating it at that point, but the second the music reminded me of the original trilogy, and when they used that music, immediately made me hate it, because I realized that every single thing I wanted the film to do, like in the beginning I said, Han's not really doing much, we have to see him take action. They respond with the Kessel Run. Well, they answered my question, but they kind of screwed me over. It's like the I want more Hawkeye thing. So we get a completely pointless subplot. Like, here you go, people, which is so insulting. And that happens so much in this film. There's a moment where Han, I wanted him to have a moment of truth, a moment of, like, trying to, like, oh, I tricked you, I gotcha. And they gave me that scene. But all the betrayals that I wanted were so out of nowhere, so out of left field, and they tried to have Han be utterly betrayed by everyone who betrayed him, but then they realized that Han's like, but I know you very well, and look, I turn the tables on you, ha, gotcha! And it's like, no, you can't have both. You can't have him be surprised that Beckett betrayed him, and then say, yeah, but I didn't trust you to be, like, I was listening to you. It's like, well, no, clearly you weren't, because you were trying to see the good in people, and you were trusting everyone that you were with, and everyone except Chewie left you. And the crazy thing is, there wasn't even any significance to Chewie staying, because Chewie hardly had anything character-wise to offer this film after they broke him out. Like, I can't think of any moment where Chewie and Han have a moment. I can think of him having moments with Beckett and with Kira. He has moments with unnecessary characters that die. But it's just, there's nothing that either hides the fact that this is a bad film or promotes the fact that Han Solo is a great character the way we think. And thus we get a clunky, terrible story that really made me mad. And that's very rare for a film to make me this mad, but it did.
Anything else to add? It just vented out.
I vented out a lot. I have more, but I can't think of it right now because I'm trying to get it out of my brain.
Well, I'll let you think of more too. I'll add on.
Add on to it, because I'm sure you have a couple of things.
I'm going to try not to repeat everything you just said, but yeah, I completely agree. I want to say I don't hate it as much as everyone else, because we saw it with a group of friends, and we all disliked it, but, you know, I did see Fantastic Beasts and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I thought were worse. This movie, I am going to forget about it soon. Maybe not tonight, it's going to be hard. But, you know what this movie made me do? Rethink my feelings for Phantom Menace. Is it as bad as Phantom Menace? I think it kind of is. For the wrong reasons. At least Phantom Menace had good set pieces.
I missed pod racing. Never would have thought I'd say that.
The moment this movie opened, it opens with text, and I don't want like a jarring opening like Rogue One, but even that was, you know, they're trying to do character development. I don't mind Han's introduction, because I don't think the actor is as bad as everyone is saying, but they keep on overplaying the dice. I don't care about the romance. And then you get, like, Han Solo's name. We were watching, like, a review. I totally feel like he should have said, I fly solo. Okay, Han Solo. But the officer gave him his name. I thought was totally wasted. I agree with you.
Out of the blue.
I do like him meeting Chewie. I thought it was one of the better set pieces, or one of the better moments, because it had nothing to do with the plot, and it was just character banter, which I will say I don't mind the banter, because again, it's not, you know, the crappy dialogue it has within the film. The film is either too long, but it feels like it's moving at a fast pace, but when you're watching it, it's so slow, everything drags. The first act, Lando isn't even in the first act. We see the crew gets killed off like that. Like, think about Deadpool 2 with the X-Force. It's kind of like that, where it's just like, oh yeah, you want to know about these characters? Oh, Thaddeus Newton dies. Oh, the alien dies. We'll just have Woody Harrelson betray him at the end, and have him keep on saying. But Lando kind of starts Act 2. And again, I don't mind that moment with him and Han, because they have banter between each other, and how he gets the Falcon, I don't mind. But then again, he doesn't realize that Lando is cheating, which I also didn't like. He finds that out at the end when he's like hiding the card within his jacket, and I was like, wouldn't Han do the same thing?
No, he does realize, because he's complaining at the end. That never, after that first Sabak match, he goes, that never would have been, it was impossible for him to have that.
No, but
he definitely cheated.
He didn't figure it out completely, and I was like, that's something Han would do too.
Well, he at least suspected it, though.
No. Like, I feel like it could have been totally better. Every set piece, like, every moment is twice as long as it needs to be. That moment, the Castle Run scene, the scene with Beckett, like we don't care about anything. The worst scene, I would say, is between L337. I hated that droid. And, like, the droid was the best part of Rogue One. I like K2SO. But here, she was spewing out, like, feminism, like, you know, liberal
droid
rights, and then, like, there's like a weird, like, romantic subplot with, like, Lando. But the worst scene, in my opinion, her and Kira just talking about their men and their love life, like, oh yeah, you know, we hooked up, and I was like, what am I watching, dude? This is nonsense. But anyways, it goes like the second act kind of ends with the Castle Run, and then again, I don't mind it, but it's just pointless. It's, you know, it's twice as long as it needs to be. It's just bland, and a Star Wars movie doesn't need to be bland. I need to enjoy myself. I need to feel like I'm, like, loving within the Force. I am one of the Jedi, and that's what Last Jedi I thought did. I don't know why people hate it as much. Sure, it has its problems, but even Episode 1 and 2 have, you know, entertaining set pieces, and dare I say, a better romance, or a better, you know, plot. And I hated the romance in the plot, but this movie goes to show that this movie just failed in all directions.
And it had a chance to be so unique, because when you think about it, even with Rogue One, this was the first film not to rely on the power of the Force, and you could have done something so unique and original with it, because you're not tied to all that other logic.
Basically, without saying everything, the movie kind of ends with them killing Beckett, and then, like, Kira's the big baddie, I guess. She protects Han, leaves Han. I don't know what was happening, but now, like, Darth Maul is the leader, and, like, you know, apparently the TV shows are canon now, which, like, I never watched the shows, but I thought he died in the movies, but no, he's coming back for the sequel. I don't care. He just turned on the lightsaber for, again, fan service.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
That's the epitome of like what they like. That's I hated that because it's like, why would he do that? He wouldn't actually do that. There's no reason
And I don't
to
mind
except
the
to
voice.
like remember this.
I don't mind Ray Parker and Sam Worthington. I think Sam the guy who voiced him,
who plays Darth Maul.
You know, it's interesting. He was actually he played the main character in the Force Unleashed game, which was cool too, because I love the games. But anyways, you can't just say, oh yeah, this happens, by the way, it's canon now. You like it, don't you? It's like, no, we don't like it. Even though, sure, fine, okay costume design, okay lighting, fine enough action doesn't mean for a good storytelling. You need a good script, and I expect more from the Kazans, who wrote a lot of the Star Wars screenplays. So it's like, what happened? Was it the direction of Ron Howard make, Alden Ehrenreich a better Han Solo? Like, what exactly went wrong? Was it, the Miller's fault? Like, Kathleen Kennedy's fault? I don't know. It's just like an unfinished puzzle piece. Like, not one piece is missing. Just like half of the puzzle pieces are missing, and you don't really know how to connect it all. It just all comes down together for me. I at first I was like, no, it's a C movie, but the more I think about it, I was being too harsh on Phantom Menace, and then I was like, wow, I'm complimenting Phantom Menace, and with Solo, like, it's the worst Star Wars movie for me, and I gotta say, this is like a C- for me.
It's down there. I don't know. I can't dissect it yet.
I have to sleep on it.
But it's but the thing is, it's the fact that it's definitively below Revenge of the Sith is bad enough, because Sith is the last line of defense of you're kind of on the cusp of a good Star Wars film. Anything above Revenge of the Sith for me is good. Anything below is bad. The fact that it's below Revenge of the Sith means it's already crossed over into the cusp of bad. And that's the biggest thing that
Again,
they could do
with
wrong.
the set pieces, I don't know what the theme is. Are they trying to do like a Fast and Furious heist movie with, like, what was it, the train robbery? What were they trying to do, a romantic subplot? Were they trying to do like him scoundrel, or what'd you say? He was like
an outlaw.
An outlaw. Was it like a western, because they had that cowboy shot where he was about to shoot that woman, soldier or whatever she was? Like, I didn't care about any of the characters.
That's it. That pissed me off too, because we're talking about the pirates that
because they were bad, and now it's like, oh no, we're working together.
Yeah, it's like if reevaluate what it means to be like good versus evil. It's like, but this is not that kind of a story. Han is supposed to have experience that is supposed to give him a different perspective, which is why he works so well with Luke and Obi-Wan, is because they are on the side of good, and Vader is on the side of evil, and they're going to rescue a princess. But Han has stipulations. This version of Han would have ran straight into the fight of the detention level and rescued Leia. This version of Han would have. And it would have been fine if they had paid off that he then didn't become that person, but he stays the exact same.
The pacing was so bad. We started off with Proxima, like an awful CGI character that, within the first,
awful.
Within the first 5 minutes, we were all laughing at it.
Everybody was.
And then it ends with, like, Han shooting first, which is, again, fine, because you want to pay off or, like, set up the payoffs, but then again, you just don't care. You don't matter. Nothing matters. It's a total waste of time, if I'm being honest. I shouldn't have to say that for a Star Wars movie. Am I right? Or
you're totally right. And it's a shame, because this isn't even that long of a film in comparison.
Well, it's long.
Well, but think about it. There's no film that's longer than this.
We started at 7:40, got out like 10:30.
Like, you pretty much, with the exception of New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, every Star Wars film that came after Empire Strikes Back is 2 hours and 15 or longer. This film is 2 hours and 15. It is just as short as
But if it's not
Jedi
interesting
and
or
Phantom Menace.
If it's not entertaining or interesting, you're gonna feel like you're sitting there all day.
You're not. It's not keeping your interest. And I'm pretty sure Phantom Menace is a little over 2:15. Jedi is 2:15, and Force Awakens is 2:15. This film felt so much longer than all of those. And it was the same exact length.
It did. Yeah.
And
people hate on episode 7 and 8. Those had heart, new characters, maybe not the best stories.
Not always, but it had something, and it kept the characters for the most part true.
Dare I say, Canto Bight, I knew where that was going. I didn't like it, but hey, they were trying something, and I can compliment that now.
But that's the thing about, like, a lot with the droid and her, like, revolutionist kind of attitude that they try to tie into the Pirates Revolution, but it didn't tie in. It's like when you have the moral, it's almost like they try to take the moral gray area that Rogue One has about like war, what is it good for? But they don't do it right. Then they try to take the Canto Bight like political messages and try to put it in here. The bad part of Last Jedi do it even worse, and you combine those two, and you try to claim that the reason why you're putting L3 and the pirates in there is because you're trying to create this big message, but really you're just wasting time.
I gotta tell you, honestly, I checked my watch. We don't meet Lando until more than an hour into the movie, and I was yawning, and my friend next to me, not you.
Really? What time? Wait, just out of interest, what time? Because we started at 7:40. What time did we see Lando?
We saw him at like 8, it was something like 9, I want to say. We saw him in more than an hour in. I'm pretty sure. I checked my watch. But I was sitting next to my friend, and we were both yawning. We're like, this is boring. What the hell? How can a Star Wars movie be boring?
Especially when it tried to, you know how like Phantom Menace isn't great when they do things like you have a really really touching, well, supposedly touching moment, and then you completely switch it by like here's another action sequence, and the tones are all like the sequence of events in Phantom Menace, for example, doesn't warrant, oh, you just had a death, why are we having a celebration? This film tried to pull a fast one, and it's like no, you don't have good tone shifts either.
Again, I will say it's a bad movie. I can't really say it's like, F material, it's awful, because it didn't ruin the originals for me. Yes, stuff wasn't earned in this movie. Like, I didn't like how he got his name. I didn't like that L337 was within the Falcon now, like with the database. That's stupid. But I am going to forget about it. It's easily forgettable. It's, I kind of want to wipe away the memory I just saw with this. Get like a Man in Black thing, like, vroom, okay, well, I totally forgot about that.
Just wipe yourself. Yeah, wipe your brain.
Completely clean. But like, I'm probably never gonna see this again. I don't know about you, but like,
I wouldn't elect to. I would elect to watch Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones because I like Sith so much.
Based on nostalgia too.
But it's also based on nostalgia. I'm not saying that those films are good, but I agree.
Imagine
that it's
kids
not,
now when we saw Phantom Menace. Kids now, like, probably that's how they felt like after waiting, a decade for Phantom Menace. Like, oh, that's what we got. That's the worst thing. But kids now watching Solo, how boring is it?
Yeah, I think it is. That's the thing. I think it is boring. And I think that there's a lot of elements to it that don't work enough for me to really be angry at this film. And here's the other problem, too. Yeah, they screwed up Darth Vader in the prequels. But there's still an element of style. And there's 3 of them that you kind of get the story.
Well,
even if they don't
we're
do
getting
the story
3 more of these.
Even if you... Well, 2 more.
Okay,
Even if you don't get the story of Vader that well done, there's at least elements of like you could see where they were going,
and it's
in his development
said, on the ride on the ride home,
and it wasn't the same.
It's Lucas's vision.
And that's another thing too, is that Lucas's vision was there, even though like albeit very wrong, but. By Revenge of the Sith, I mean, I know people have their problems with Revenge of the Sith as well. I think that there was some accurate depictions of what Anakin and Obi-Wan went through that I think about when I'm watching the original trilogy. No, it wasn't necessarily great, but it had an attitude. The characters had personality, even if it wasn't good personality. The Attack of the Clones, the struggle between Master and Apprentice, and Anakin being such a whiny baby, and Obi-Wan being like, oh my god, Anakin, do this. Anakin, you're not listening to me. And you kind of see Anakin's rebellious side that leads to him falling victim to Palpatine. Again, not well done, but nostalgic for us, and certainly not ruining one of our favorite characters, and a lot of people's favorite characters.
Overall, I've seen these actors do way better, and I didn't hate Han. So if they're going to do another one, kind of just restart it, if I'm going to be honest. And, like, you can keep Donald Glover, but change the personalities. They felt like a caricatures of their own character, like impressionists, It's like, no.
Exactly. They didn't seem like they were genuine characters because there was so much concern with this film about every element, and the reshoots and all that stuff definitely came into play.
Well, without going on and on, I will say my grade. As for now, tonight, first night watching it, I want to give it a C, but honestly, it's a C- movie, the worst one. 4 out of 10, and our mic check grade, trash, crumble, because I can kind of throw it away and forget about it.
I think mine might be trash compact. I think I have to go with, I mean, I'm not sure, C minus D plus, I don't really know, but the thing is, this movie made me angry enough. Yeah, 4. Like, the movie made me angry enough, and, like, that rivaled a lot of my, like, angry hate movies. Not movies that are, like, because, for example, there's obviously movies that are much worse than this, much worse, like, but the point is not, like, those movies you expect to be bad. This is, like, a disappointment. Like, I have a lot of movies like that, and a lot of them have to do with rebooting or taking characters that I previously loved and completely ruining them. And this one, and with the exception of, like, for example, I really don't like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the newer one, and I don't like the live action Beauty and the Beast. But you could argue that they failed, but they tried to create new versions of the character. There's no other version of Han. It is Han Solo, and that is it. It's the one thing about Han Solo that you can't change. It's not from a fairy tale like Belle, where they have different versions of Beauty and the Beast. Or, oh, well, here's Tim Burton's version versus, you know, the 1971 version of Willy Wonka. And it's based on a book, so there's another version of him.
That's true.
This is Han Solo. We've never seen another version of him portrayed because there's no need to, because you're never going to do anything like that with Star Wars. It's supposed to be an origin story where you can at least see how he got there. And for anyone even saying, like, well, he's not supposed to be the same character, he has no character arc anyway, and he's both too similar to the current Han Solo that we know and love, and it's just too out there, the idea that he could have ever been this version, for me to justify to me that, well, he's different, so that makes it okay. It's like, yeah, but you still need to make a good character, regardless of him being okay or whatever. If you just saw this movie, you would not think anything of him the way that regular fans think of Han Solo and how great he is. So that's kind of my big thing.
I can't 100% say that this is the worst of the worst, but I will for now say, like, no, it's probably the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen. We were gonna end it with a Mowgli trailer actually, but they played it beforehand.
Yeah, we already saw it.
Did you like what you saw?
I like what I saw better than what I saw when the movie started, and I honestly think this movie doesn't deserve. It deserves a whole, like, episode of our time.
Actually,
because it's so rage-inducing. That's the thing.
You know what's been annoying me lately? Not Mowgli, because I think that could be maybe have potential, but when we saw Deadpool 2, and now tonight, they're playing these Grinch pre-ads. It's not the ad itself.
Oh, another one I'm gonna hate.
But they're playing these pre-ads before the advertisements even start, not even for the Grinch. And it's like, what am I watching?
It pads out more time there. The thing is, the whole experience, thanks to that as well, you reminded me, is like rage-inducing, which is why I will say, depending on how big of a Han Solo fan you are, I might actually suggest skipping this. And if I wasn't so curious to, you know, not just...
We were interested before it started.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to, like, start being like, I don't want to talk about it like I can right now without having seen it, because I feel like that's a little unfair, because I haven't seen it, so I technically don't know. But I will tell you guys, please, if you really love Han Solo and you're not as much of a stickler to see everything like we are, don't go see it.
Yeah,
it's going to ruin your perspective on the. It'll take a while to wash this bad taste out of your mouth.
Yeah, this is pretty much our early first reactions.
Yeah. So yeah, so this is not only, this is a warning. This is when our motto comes in handy, which is, before you go see a movie, please check in with us first.
Thanks for watching or listening. Bye.
Bye.